Today we're going to be talking about intensity. And by the way, if you see a dumbbell here and you're like, I'm a yoga person, I don't care, I don't want to know about dumbbells. Intensity matters for yoga too. So I'm going to talk about how you can progress the poses and the movements in yoga so that you are getting high enough intensity in your exercise to stimulate adaptation in your tissues and get stronger over time. So we're talking about intensity and how you can use weight or progressions to your advantage to really get strong in whatever kind of exercise you do. Real quick, my name is Anthony Davis. This is Shapeshift Wellness, where we explore the science of fitness, yoga, and meditation. If you like that sort of thing, subscribe to my channel. Stick around for the whole video because we're going to explore definitions, but then we're also going to explore some practical applications and why does this actually matter. Let's check it out. Okay, so let's start off with some definitions here. So intensity, that has a specific meaning in the exercise science world, really. We are usually, when we're talking about intensity, especially in weightlifting, we're talking about basically how much weight you're lifting, right? So how heavy of a weight are you lifting? You can't do as many repetitions when you do that. If you load up a lot of weight onto a barbell and you try to do a squat, well, you're going to be able to do fewer actual numbers of squats, but you can do it at a higher weight. So difficulty or weight. Intensity is basically how difficult the thing that you're doing is, right? You can only maintain maximal intensity, in other words, maximum number of weight for a short burst of time, essentially, right? And if you lower the intensity, usually you lower the weight, you make the actual exercise easier. So if you're doing repetitions, you can do more repetitions, but it's not as intense, all right? So intensity, when we look at yoga, we can look at, instead of weight, we're modifying body weight and physics. So in this example, so if we want a more intense exercise in yoga, make our chaturangas full chaturangas, full depth, knees up. If we want it to be less intense, we do knees down and we only lower our bend the elbows halfway. We don't go all the way to a full depth, even with the knees down. So this would be the least intense, and this here, knees up chaturanga full depth, would be full intensity. That would be very intense. And then if you really wanted to push the intensity, you would be doing like a pike. You would be doing some kind of arm balance, right? Your feet wouldn't even be on the ground. That would be more intense. That would be a lot more intense. Or you could just do one-armed chaturangas, which would be very, very intense. You could probably, even somebody who can easily do a chaturanga could probably only do one, maybe one-armed chaturanga in a row because they're so intense. So there are lots of ways to achieve a high intensity exercise. Okay, this is just a few that I brainstormed, but there are more ways to achieve it. The point is that if you're looking to make your exercise more intense, and by the way, we'll get to the reasons of why would you do this in a moment, but one way is to go closer to a 1 rep max. So load up the bar, or if you're doing something with weights, pick up such a heavy weight that you can't do very many repetitions in a row. That would be a very high intensity exercise. Another way is that you could do no breaks. So a lot of times you see, or very minimal breaks. So you see like high intensity interval training, HIIT training, and you do one exercise and then you jump to the next exercise, you go, and then you jump to the next exercise, you go, and it's a circuit, right? So your heart doesn't get to rest, your vascular system doesn't get to rest, your nervous system doesn't get to rest between sets, even though you're doing maybe exercises with different muscle groups. So the muscle groups do get to rest, the rest of the systems of the body do not get to rest, and therefore they are going at their maximum intensity for the full duration of that circuit. So no breaks is one way to do it. Now, interestingly, if you don't give yourself breaks, you cannot do as high of a weight exercise as you could have otherwise. So if I do deadlifts and I try to pick up the maximum amount of weight, if I don't give myself a rest period after I pick up that weight, I will not be able to do another set of that exercise. Okay, so you don't want to pile up all of these things at the same time. If you look at these, here are 4 different ways that I can make an exercise high intensity. You don't want to do all of them at the same time. All 4 of them would be the most intense exercise. No, actually. not necessarily. Okay, next way is max effort. So here I've got a sprinter versus a marathon runner, right? A marathon runner is kind of just jogging, right? Jogging is pretty easy. Most people can jog for a longer duration, right? But sprinting, you can only maintain your maximum speed. If Usain Bolt can sprint at, I don't know, 27 miles an hour or something like that, he can only maintain 27 miles an hour for, I don't know, 100 meters or, something like that. He cannot maintain 27 miles an hour for 800 meters. You can't do it. High intensity shortens the distance or shortens the duration or shortens the number of reps. Okay, so max effort is another way to do it. Or in yoga, so this person is doing a variation of a handstand, kind of, whatever. He could be in the middle of a flow or something like that. Whatever. He's doing an arm balance. This is way more intense than a chaturanga, right? Because he's balancing on his arms. So another way in yoga to progress is, again, just make the pose more difficult muscularly so that your muscles are working harder. So you can only do one of that thing, or you can only hold the pose for a short number of seconds before you completely fatigue. So these are ways that you can achieve a high intensity exercise. Now, why are we trying to achieve high intensity exercise? Well, there are a few reasons. And you'll see, by the way, my next video is going to be about volume. So high intensity is usually high amounts of weight, and high volume is kind of usually looked at as the opposite type of training, where you're doing a lot of repetitions but very, very low weight. Okay. So you'll see that I'm going to have the same slide here in my next video too, but let's look at high intensity. So, well, why do we do it? Specificity of training. So your body specifically adapts to the things that you make it do, right? So if you want to get stronger and you want your tissues, your tendons, your ligaments, your bones to be able to handle really high amounts of force, maximal force. Like if I want to be able to fall and not break something when I fall, or not sprain something when I fall, I need my tissues physically to be able to handle a really, really high maximum amount of force all at once. And so training by picking up the heaviest thing that I can all at once, or as close to that as I can get it, specifically makes me good at handling high forces. Or a simpler way of saying that is, if I want to be good at picking up heavy things, I need to pick up heavy things. I can't just go pick up a bunch of light things and then increase my ability to pick up really heavy things. It doesn't work that way. If you want to pick up heavy things, you got to pick up heavy things. That's the only way you get better. If you want to get better at running, you got to run. If you want to get better at swimming, you got to swim, right? The next reason is, frankly, it's fun. Some people just really enjoy giving it 110%, right? All at once, and just everything their body has, leave nothing on the, or leave it all out on the court or the field, or however you want to think about it. The point is, like, sometimes it's just fun to give all you got, right? So if you enjoy that kind of thing, if you think that's fun, then frankly, having fun is a good enough reason, okay? And the next is progress. That if you want to progress and get stronger and help to reduce your injury risk and all that, you need to progressively overload. You need to push. You need to be constantly pushing what is your version of high intensity. So for me right now, let's say I can, deadlift a maximum, my 1 rep max. Let's say my 1 rep max is 200 pounds that I can deadlift. I'm just, throwing that out there. Okay. So if it's 200 pounds and I want to increase that, I need to be constantly kind of pushing the edge a little bit. Like, so I'm doing reps of 8 at 150 pounds, right? Well, I need to try eventually to, let's see if I can pick up 160 pounds, and let's see how many times I can do that, right? And maybe I can't do it as many times, so that's high intensity for me. And then eventually I get to 170, whatever. And then my bar keeps getting higher. Okay, so to make progress, you need to push your envelope. You need to push beyond your comfort zone in order to make progress. And so that high intensity, picking up a really heavy thing, is just difficult. And so you make a certain kind of progress by doing that. Okay. So next episode, we're going to be talking about volume, which is kind of looked at as the opposite of high intensity. So high volume training, that you're going to have unique benefits to high volume training. So we'll learn about that in our next episode. Thank you for watching. If you have questions, leave them in the comments and tell me in the comments, do you prefer high intensity or maybe high volume training? And how can you perhaps use high intensity in your practice, whether it's weightlifting or yoga? See you next time.